Hello YouTube and welcome back to the channel outside the target demographic. Today we're going to be attempting to place the battery, so let's get started. I say attempting because Amazon suggested a previous battery that didn't fit, and we are in the return process for that. But basically we have a little tabby tab right here. It is spring loaded, as you can see. That's going to release this mechanism and allow the seat to lift. Once you do, this is the battery tray. I believe it should have a rubber insert. Mine does not because this is a 53-year-old bike. I did add a little bit of foam down there. But the biggest thing we're looking for is if it physically fits, which it does, which is more than I can say for the other one. Beautiful. The height is low enough that the seat will not hit it, which it won't because we have about an inch of stoppers right here, so it should close and latch, which it does, and the contacts would not touch that, and the positive is on the correct side. So the other one had the positive here, the negative there. I could have ran a wire, but it was also, I think, like an inch taller, so that would not have worked too well for me. For reference, it is a Yankee Bravo 12 Alpha Alpha battery. You can pause that if you need to, I suppose. That could be the UPC. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and put it on a charger and do a couple other things as we wait. For those of you who have never used a battery charger, here's your introduction to it. Basically, you have three connections coming out of the charger. You have your red, which is positive. It's usually marked, but red is always positive. Black is your negative. In this case, it is marked. And then connection to your wall's power. So you'll notice the terminals are covered on this new battery. They will usually be labeled. Once you lose that cover, they are no longer color coded, but it will tell you positive and negative. You can use a voltmeter to put these on, and typically the smart chargers are smart enough. They'll tell you that your polarity is reversed, such as right here, in which case you'll flip the alligator clamps around. So the correct procedure with this is you want to connect your positive first. You want to make sure that it's nice and on there. Give it a couple wiggles. If it's going to fall off, it's better that it falls off with you being right here than it falls off, you know, an hour later and it either doesn't charge or starts a fire or something like that. And then your negative. Okay, make sure that that's nice and good. And then we're going to plug it into the wall last. That way, these don't accidentally short out. These don't accidentally get into water and short out, touching a metal tabletop, something like that. So make sure that they are mechanically and electronically in place, and then go ahead and give the charger power. When you do, this one's going to say 12.7 volts. I don't know how well that's showing up on your end. On my camera, it's not so great, but 12.7. A 12 volt battery is dead at 12 volts. Usually 12.6 volts is when it's dead, and it will be at about, let's see, I believe it's 13.2 would be when it's fully charged. It will read higher if you had a voltmeter connected to a running engine, a running motorcycle, a running car, because your alternator is charging the system. So typically you're going to get like 14 and a half volts with the system running. So this is a smart enough charger. It will tell me it's now at 81%, 82%. So they did have a charge on it. Typically these sit on a shelf for months and or years, and the battery does slowly deplete its power reservoir. So go ahead and make sure you top it off before you put it in the motorcycle. Give yourself the best chance. We also have a few things here. It's showing me the battery percentage right now. Now it's showing me the voltage, which is 12. I can do a 3 amp charge or a 15 amp charge. 15 amp is of course going to be 5 times faster charge rate, but you're pushing a lot of heat into a small battery. So if we look, this is a 3 amp, which is illuminated, and a 15 amp automotive marine, it says. So this is a 12 amp battery. That would charge this battery from completely dead to completely full in less than 1 hour, right? If this is pushing out 15 amps and this only has a capacity of 12, then I'm going to charge that battery from dead to full in 12 hours. Not really the way you want to be doing it. You don't want to wake up and the first step out of bed is you running a marathon, right? So the slower you can charge it, honestly, the better, especially the first time. Kind of like a cell phone, you don't want it charging at the 3 amp capacity if you have like a half amp kind of thing overnight. The other thing you can do with this one is I have a standard type battery, a AGM, not really sure what that is, and a gel. This one's going to be a gel. The way you can tell, there are no water fill ports on the top. So this is a much lower maintenance. I don't have to top off the water. I don't have to make sure it doesn't freeze, because when water freezes, it expands by, I believe it's 15% volume, and that will crack a battery and boo, 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 boo. So basically, we are squared away with this. It's already up to 92%. I don't know that I believe that, but regardless, we're going to let that sit for a bit, and we have a few odds and ends we can do on the bike as we're waiting for that to come up. And those few things on the bike involve some PB Blaster. So we have a pivot point. Let me set this down real quick. Right here, both a mechanical pivot point there, and I'm pulling a cable that's going to be my front brake. For those of you who don't know, the easier way to understand how the setup of a motorcycle works is everything that controls your speed, accelerating and decelerating, is on the right side. Everything that controls your transmission is on the left side. So we have a front brake up front, which makes sense. We have a rear brake down below, which I guess is further rearward than that. And then, of course, we have our throttle. So all the way forward, rolled clockwise, and it is spring loaded, it will snap back into position, is going to be a closed throttle. It's going to be you not stepping on the gas pedal of your car. The more you spin this, the harder towards the ground you're pushing the gas pedal in your car, and the more speed you're going to get. You can see right here, the more I turn the throttle, the more this guy is going to open up. There's a butterfly valve in the carburetor that's going to open. And when it opens, it's going to allow more air and therefore more gas to get sucked into the engine, which is going to allow more energy to be burned faster, which is going to create acceleration. When we go to this side, everything controlling your transmission is going to be on the left-hand side. The grand majority, we're talking 99.5% of motorcycles, are a manual transmission versus a scooter or a moped could be an automatic transmission. That said, if it's a manual transmission, you have your clutch lever here and you have your gear select here. So you would, anyone who has familiarity with a manual transmission car, this is all the way out, which means your engine is completely connected to your transmission and you are sending 100% of the power from the engine to the rear wheel. Squeezing this in all the way disconnects your transmission from your engine. So you're coasting. Your engine is still idling, it is still producing power, but 100% of it is disconnected from the transmission. Therefore, none of it is going to your wheels. Therefore, you are not moving. Think came to a stop at a stoplight or going downhill or shifting gears. So you're going to pull this in all the way. You're going to step down on the pedal to downshift, and you're going to put your toe under and flip up to upshift. In order to do that without destroying your engine or transmission, you have to detach the two completely, perform your shift, and then slowly let this out. The slower you let this out, the less lurching and jerking you're going to have between the engine and transmission, which in a car is lurching and jerking. On a motorcycle is imbalance in you ending up going into a guardrail or dropping the bike or losing control of it. So you absolutely want to learn the friction zone, which is the amount of space. Usually it's going to be about here to here. This is the 100% of the disengaged to re-engaged travel is about here. This is just a stop point that's going to prevent the lever from, flipping all the way out. So basically you're operating in this little area right here, and you want to make sure that you learn that friction zone and control it so that you can maintain control of your bike. The next step with the transmission, typically with a car, you would pull to the left, you have first, second, in the middle, forward is third, backwards is fourth, over to the right, fifth and sixth, and then a reverse, something like that. With a manual transmission motorcycle, you have all the way down is actually first gear. A half step up is neutral, and then a full step up gets you into second, third, fourth, fifth, and then sixth if you have it. Most bikes are 4 or 5 speed. So coming to a stop, you're going to stomp, 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 and then you're going to do a half step up, and it will click into neutral. Typically, there will be a neutral light. This one, I believe it's this one here. We'll find out when I get power to it. But neutral on the transmission is the same as you manually holding the clutch all the way disengaged. It will allow you to release the clutch, and you will still not have the engine linked to your transmission because the transmission is set to neutral and it is not receiving power from the engine. So there's 2 different ways you can do it. And it is honestly easier on a motorcycle because you are used to using your hands all the time for fine motor movements. Motor. So being able to control that friction zone is arguably easier by being able to manipulate it here than trying to manipulate it with your foot. And then your gear selects are also, I maintain, a little bit easier. But all that to say, these cables, let's see, center of the screen right there, are also 50 some odd years old. So we're going to be spraying some PB Blaster both on the pivot hinge as well as into the cable. It's very much like a bicycle cable. Hello, Bagheera, for your bicycle brakes and gear select and all that. So we're going to be spraying those. Anything that moves, like the center stand here, the side stand on the other side, I'm going to be spraying into this mechanism and allowing it to free up a little bit. This one isn't too bad. And this chain is also quite old. What you'll typically do is grab 2 of the links and just twist and see if it's free floating. Honestly, it does seem to be. But any binding or anything like that is going to be both loud and rob some of your energy and give you a little bit of vibration. So I'm going to hit this whole thing with the PB Blaster. And if I'm in neutral, which I do not appear to be, I can just spin the rear wheel and spray the individual links and let that oil start breaking it down. Now, you need to get chain lube, which will lubricate the chain. The PB Blaster is going to break up the deposits and, decades of being stored and make it a little bit more free-flowing. So if you're getting a barn find, the chain is something you're probably going to want to replace. I think they're $30, $25. They're not even that expensive. But if you have one that is usable, why replace something you don't have to? So I'm going to go ahead and start spraying all those things, and we'll cut back. In the process of doing the rear chain here, it is in neutral. You can see I did these pivot points, and it's much quieter, much less friction. The bike sits low enough that it just barely drags the tire. So all I do is I go at the back side, I put my left hand on this side, the right hand on the other side, grab the spokes and kind of lift the bike and try rotating the tire, and it will rotate. So you can see I can do from here to here, maybe 6 inches at a time. I'm spraying in between the links here and then on the back side as well as this V right here. Now what you'll notice is right here is some binding. So if I lay you flat, you can see it's coming across, notches down, notches back up, and then goes across. That's kind of what we're looking to fight. And I mean, it will move, but it will also bind. So that's what I'm hoping to prevent, and that's the perfect example for you on what we're looking to fight with this PB Blaster. We probably will have to adjust the chain. It's got a little bit of slop in it. All my bikes nowadays have drivetrains and axle just like a car, so very low maintenance, and you don't have to lube it every 500 miles. So I'm gonna have to do a little bit of research on what we're looking for here. But between the surface rust and the fact that the chain will bind, that is what we're trying to fight. If you have too many of those, it's probably better off just replacing the chain. This one I know I replaced with, I mean, it has to have less than 1,000 miles on it, so I imagine we can resurrect it. Another trick is use an old piece of paper from the trash, wrap it around here. If you overspray, it's going to collect it and prevent it from hitting your driveway. But also anything that pulls on the paper is going to be held in contact with that chain and be more likely to be absorbed more readily. So it prevents your rims from getting any dirtier than they are, your concrete from absorbing oils, and it gives you the best chance for accuracy and saturation with your chain. So as I rotate the chain, it's very easy to see the parts you've already done, so you'll know when to stop. We'll eventually come across the master link, and that's going to be a almost horseshoe shape device that you can remove this and you can make the chain into essentially a belt. So instead of it being a circular object, you can break it into one long piece instead of a loop. And then you can start removing individual links or adding to it, or it can make threading it through the mechanism a little bit easier, this, that, and the other. What you could do is you could rotate the chain until that master link is here, and that will also give you a visual indication of when you've lubed the whole chain and it's made a 360 loop by that being your index here. Another thing that occurs to me is we do have the surface rust. I'm not really looking to make this look pretty. I'm not really looking to make it functional. Again, I'll have to get some chain lube, but you can get a toothbrush and you can start scrubbing these, and that's going to make it free up a little bit better as well. Honestly, my chain's not too bad. You got plenty of flex. You got plenty of give up here and up there where I've already lubed, but you can get a toothbrush and you could get more intricate into there, free up more debris, especially if you have a dirt bike or something that goes off-roading. It's going to be picking up a little bit more debris in there. So a toothbrush would work as well. You could also spray this into a small cap or a cup or something, and you can dip the toothbrush in there and maybe be a little cleaner by not haphazardly spraying it everywhere. I don't know if I can show you too well. I guess what I'll try and do is this. We're gonna get a third hand in there, and basically all I'm doing, I'm starting at the front closest to the engine. That way if I miss or leak or it goes onto the paper, it will start pulling down and be more likely to get into the rest of the chain. But I'm going in between these on that side and these on this side, and letting that sit for a bit. I'm probably going to leave it on there until the next time I work on the bike. The longer this stuff has to work, the more it's going to get up in there, and the longer I leave it on there, the more I wheel the bike around in and out of the garage, the more these links are going to start moving and freeing up and playing, and that's just going to make it work all the better. So it is a penetrating oil, so the longer it sits, the better it's going to be. This isn't Windex where you wipe on, wipe off kind of thing. So the longer it sits, the better off you are. But that's all I'm doing. Kind of time consuming, but this is the direct transmission from your transmission to your tires. So if there's an issue here, if there's a break, if there's a kink, if there's some kind of mechanical failure, now at 0 miles an hour and 10 minutes of your time is the time to find that. Then at 10 miles an hour, or 60 or 70 miles an hour. So take your time, get to learn your bike, see what's going on back here, get an appreciation for it, see how you can adjust it if you need to adjust it, all those things while you're looking at the chain. At this point, we've done the entire chain. Again, the longer it sits, the better it's going to be. A thought occurred to me when we first bought this bike. My dad had a trick that he knew, and I thought I'd pass it along. So the tip for the video: if your chain is really calcified, really rusted, really gross, and you want to make sure that the bike can run and drive kind of thing, you don't want to use it long term, of course, do replace your chain. But he showed me a trick that you can do if your O-ring does not, if your chain does not have O-rings. This one does not. Some of them will, some of them do, so do double check. But if it doesn't have O-rings, you can use a very aggressive cleaning solution that a lot of people, you could buy it for $3 or $4 a gallon. It's not even that expensive. And a lot of people have actually learned to put it into their engines, and that's gasoline. So we took the chain, we coiled it up pretty close. We put it into a just like a soup can kind of thing. Put, a little taller than the chain amount in there, and we just dipped the chain in the gasoline for a day or two. Gasoline's a universal solvent, as it turns out, and it started breaking up a lot of the debris and stuff. It came out very dark, almost like a used oil. So that is a way that you can do the chain. It will break down oils and stuff as well. So just because it is clean and it has been dipped in the gasoline doesn't mean it's ready to go back on. You'll want to make sure that you use a proper lube for it and give it a while for it to start reabsorbing that stuff. But we can see these links are very serviceable. I know the condition of this belt, and you can see it's starting to get some darker stuff off there. So it is breaking down the debris and all. And if we look here, it is doing some work as far as a cleaning agent goes, but we already have a much floopier, that's the industry term we're going to use, much floopier chain, and that's what you're going to want. A quieter chain is a more efficient chain. You're not wasting the rotational energy, converting it into noise, and that's less stress, less harmonics, less heat, less vibrations, all of which can snap a chain. And now you have a bit of a runaway chainsaw situation, which you do not want behind your legs or a passenger's legs. So that's where we are with that. As we move up to these controls, it takes so much less energy to operate this. Basically what I did, as I squeezed this in, I exposed maybe 1 inch of the steel band there. So I put the black nozzle as far in as I could. I squeezed a blast in there, closed it. Did that 5 or 6 times, held it open, put a blast in there, and basically I'm hoping to start dragging that oil down in here. It is a penetrating oil, so it's going to start breaking that stuff up. Rain and snow and debris and boo is mostly going to be introduced into the system here, right? It's essentially a straw. You have the bottom of the straw and the top of the straw where dirt can get in. That one's essentially sealed up and up against the engine. This one is an exposed action every time you operate the transmission, which is a couple dozen times on your way to wherever you're going. So the more I can introduce that oil up here, also gravity's a thing, so it's going to start working its way down. And this is already much easier to operate as well as this side. So that's about what we have there. I did do both of the stands, the side stand and the center stand. So I think we're about squared away there. We're waiting for the battery, and we'll see if I can get it to fit and maybe start on that new battery. Oh yeah, this is just the one coating that I did. At time of recording, it's been probably 2-3 weeks, and it still looks better than it's ever been in my possession. So I may give it another pass, but it does look very, very nice. Back over to the charger. It has a green LED to indicate that it is fully charged. We're at 100%. Again, that's the percent, that's the voltage. 100% and 12 volts, it's saying. So now we're going to reverse the order. Instead of disconnecting here and maybe causing a spark, I'm going to unplug it from the wall and then disconnect my Bagheera positive and my negative, and I'll show you the last trick I have for using a external battery charger. Unplugged from the wall, it may still be indicating because we are technically getting some power. So go ahead and let it completely discharge. My trick is take your positive, connect it to your negative by clipping onto the insulation of that so that, it doesn't short out. That will prevent it from shorting out. That'll make it where you really can't have both of these alligator clamps touching the same metal countertop or surface at the same time. And if either of them is going to touch, it's better that the negative, the ground, touches something than the hot. So that's a good way to keep those together, in addition to being a good way to keep those together. So now wrapping it's going to be much easier because I'm not trying to take care of 2 Hydra heads. They're essentially linked together. So with that done, let's go ahead and see if I can't install that into the bike. Back over to the bike. We've already confirm that the polarities are correct, that it will physically fit into place. You may recall there's a little plastic bag right here. They give you the hardware to mount the battery. So you have bolts and nuts, and this is going to be tricky. They give you, that's why it's going to be tricky. They give you 2 mounting positions on top of the battery and on the side. So I'm going to have to check. I believe this was a side mount. Back in the day, it would have to be based on this. So I'm going to need to make sure, A, that they can fit. We're going to be going in through the sides here. And then B, especially the hot, I don't want shorting against the battery tray here. So I'm going to fish out that nut, and we're going to try and get that fitted in place. This is going to be a balance, one that I cannot do with my hands full, but you're going to take that nut, you're going to put it along the side, and then you're going to line up the wires threaded through one of these bolts and try and engage that nut. The more you tighten it down, the more it's going to squeeze everything against the contact, and the better connection you're going to have. I'm going to start with the positive. That way it's less likely to short out against anything because I am not connected to the negative. If I did the negative first, the whole bike becomes part of a circuit. If I accidentally touch this to that and then that to this, it becomes a bit of a fire hazard. So we're going to start with the positive, and it will look something like this. And basically I only have it 1 full rotation seated in place. That allows me a little bit of slop. And now I can make sure that all of these are well up and away from the rest of the frame, from the chassis. So I'm going to try and line these up as best I can. And we're going to seat this all the way up against and then get started on the negative. And then our finished product is thusly. We'll make sure the seat still closes, still mechanically latches and unlatches. So we're squared away. If you want, you can put some electrical tape over the top there. The battery does vibrate a bit, so I'm probably going to shove some cardboard and just shim it into place. Like I said, I believe this originally used to have a rubber cover. It also had a rubber strap that went across here. The contacts are less flush than the rest of the battery, so I really don't see it becoming an issue. I may throw some electrical tape over the top anyways. That's what I have for today. Life's getting in the way, as these projects usually succumb to. So I'm going to go ahead and do a couple other things, but that's what we have for now. I believe I have an issue where I need a battery in here, a bulb in here, and a bulb for this guy. And I think that'll clear up a lot of the electrical issues, so that'll probably be next. But we know we have the correct battery, we know that it fits, and we know that the penetrating oil is doing its thing in all the places, so we should be squared away. This is outside the target demographic. I appreciate you guys stopping by. Any questions, comments, concerns you have, leave them in the comments section down below, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.